Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Pro Football Talk airs Monday through Friday, NBCSN at 5:30 Eastern. Let's bring in Mike. Better off-season, Patriots or Broncos?
Well, right now, the Broncos. I mean, the Patriots are trying to keep up with the Broncos. The Broncos are trying to close a 35-point deficit with the Seahawks. And rarely do you see a conference champion go all in the way the Broncos have. So far, the Broncos, I think it's a given they're the favorite in the AFC. I just think they've carved that 35-point gap with the Seahawks down to about 23 or 24 right now.
But I like how the Patriots, they have more at-risk players, it seems like, than anybody else in the league. That you would think it would be teams that are desperate that they would bring in players. You know, New England somehow gets away with it. Why?
Well, look, they could have kept Aqib Talib on a long-term contract. I think one of the reasons they didn't is because he's got a history of off-field issues. And if you give a guy a bunch of guaranteed money less than a year after Aaron Hernandez blew up in their faces, then it would have looked even worse. I think that's one of the reasons they didn't keep Talib. They couldn't sign him to the deal that the Broncos could. The Broncos could get away with it because they don't have the Aaron Hernandez experience on their resume.
What about Gronk's health status here?
Well, you know, there's been pictures of him out and about, and I think we just have to take a wait-and-see approach. Anytime a guy tears an ACL late in the season, you never know how he's going to respond. You never know how he's going to be able to run. Is he going to be able to cut? And we saw so many delays the last time around when he was dealing with the aftermath of back surgery, multiple arm surgeries. I don't think there's going to be any clarity as to when he's going to be ready to go.
Talking to Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com, joining us Dan Patrick Show. Are the Cowboys sewing their Jared Allen jersey as we speak?
Well, you know, they've got $7.2 million in cap space, and they can get creative if they end up convincing him to go to Dallas. And if he'd go to Dallas, it would have to be about the money. It can't be about trying to win. I mean, this is a team that is dog-paddling at 8-8 at best. If anything, they've regressed. The Eagles are creating a bigger gap in the NFC East with the Cowboys. And I think Allen just wants to see what's out there for him. I don't think he's serious about the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are interested. And he has to ask himself, do I want money or do I want a ring?
Okay, if it's not the Cowboys, then where?
I think the Seahawks make a ton of sense. They cut Chris Clemens. The Seahawks last year, they sat and waited, and they struck great deals with Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. They sit and wait. They'll sit and wait, and maybe Jared Allen just realizes, you know what, I got $73 million from the last 6 years with Minnesota. I want a Super Bowl ring. I'll go to Seattle.
Matt Schaub, if you're a Raider fan and Matt Schaub's the answer, then you probably don't like the question here. But
well, here's the thing. I sense, Dan, that a lot of these teams that are thinking about taking a quarterback in round one are lining up their fallback options in advance. The Jaguars with Chad Henne, Vikings with Matt Castle, the Buccaneers to a certain extent with Josh McCown, maybe the Raiders with Matt Schaub. That's one of the reasons Mike Vick's taking his time, because he knows he could be the starter for 2 months and that he gets supplanted by whoever is taken in round one. So that's why I think these teams are maybe planning out having that veteran starter, air quotes, starter in place, pending what happens on May 8th.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's just now I look at Vic with the Jets. Does that...
I don't think he'll go there. Because he wants to have a chance to be the week one starter. In New York, what he would be is the guy who comes in when Geno Smith gets benched, and I don't think he's interested in doing that. If that's his best option, then so be it. But I think he's going to wait and see how the draft shakes out. I'd be surprised if he takes a job before the draft.
The situation with Jim Irsay, starting to get more details on this. Charged with a DUI, I think 4 counts here of possession. How does an owner get disciplined? How does the league get involved in this?
Well, the league has confirmed that everyone falls under the personal conduct policy. It says it in the opening line of the personal conduct policy. It's been 7 years now since the NFL beefed that thing up. First time they've had to deal with an owner, and you have to deal with an owner the same way you deal with a player. Otherwise, you have a horrible double standard. Your program has no credibility. We say all the time when players get arrested for DUI, don't they have the money to get a ride home?
Yeah.
Jim Irsay's got a net worth of $1.6 billion.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what it was. I knew that he talked about sobriety for 16 years and the prescription meds here, but I didn't know how you could punish an owner.
Well, and that's the other thing. He's subject to discipline, but what do? You suspend him from owning the team? I don't understand what that would be. You give him a fine? Well, to fine a guy with a $1.6 billion net worth, commensurate with what you fine a player, what do you have to fine him? $5 million, $10 million? I don't know what the NFL would do in a situation like this, and I think it's unfair to the team if they would take away draft picks or take away salary cap space. just because the owner did something he shouldn't have done. This is going to be a tough situation for the NFL because they can't come off as being too lenient, but also there's a point where it's just unfair to the franchise.
The Emmanuel Sanders situation was interesting. The Patriots flirted with him last year. Kansas City thought they had him this year, and now he's going to Denver. It seems to be a little bit more involved in this.
Yeah, but I think it's uncommon that you have negotiations and you have parties who think that a deal's in place. And in the NFL, it's not done until it's signed and approved by the league office. That's how the Broncos lost Elvis Dumervil last year. They had a verbal deal, but until it was sent into the league office and approved, it wasn't a deal. I think it's fitting that a guy who was once fined by the NFL for faking an injury is in the middle of a controversy over whether or not he kept his word to the Chiefs. And Sanders says there was no deal with the Chiefs, and if the Chiefs really wanted to, they could pursue it. I just think they're content to complain about it and move on.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, 5:30 Eastern tonight on NBCSN. Thank you, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.